Today on the podcast, we are sitting down with Liz Gillies. For such a young woman, she has had a huge career. You know her from Victorious, you know her from 13. She does voiceover on Family Guy and some really cool Halloween costumes with Ariana Grande.
Liz talks about her different projects. She talks about some of the incredible side projects she's done, as well as her upcoming project, Spread, with Harvey Keitel. We hope you really enjoy and find some inspiration in her story.
So, Liz, for in her words, we are so excited that you're here today and so nice to meet you. One of the things that we really like to do differently is we definitely will talk about projects and things, but first we want to hear your story. We think it's so inspiring to hear a story of how you got started, what those first paths were to wanting to be an actor, wanting to be in the arts,
Right.
and then just kind of the twists
Yeah.
and turns to get you where you are today.
Okay, cool. Should I just go right into it?
Yeah,
Into my
dive
thing?
in.
Tell us about baby Liz.
I always wanted to be part of the entertainment industry. I didn't know how. I was singing at a very young age and I was obsessed with musical theater, and my parents were kind enough to put me in a lot of dance classes and singing classes, and I did a lot of musical theater, and I just kind of would find opportunities for myself start as young as maybe 9 years old. I would like look and I would read and I would beg my parents to look in the newspaper or around town if there was anything local, any theater, if there were agents coming to town or to a nearby town. And that's how I ended up getting my start. There was a talent scout with these agents from the city because I lived about an hour outside the city in New Jersey.
Okay.
And I found some open call and I made my mom drive me at maybe 9 years old or 10 years old. And I tried to get an agent so that I could kick this off. And luckily, my parents were very supportive. And I was I was like my own stage mom. I like sort of, I was like pushing myself into all of this and finding opportunities. But luckily, they went with it. And that's really how I started. I did local theater, and then I got my first agent maybe when I was 11 or 12, and then I was in the American Girl show in New York City. It was right next to Saks Fifth Avenue in the
Right.
Yeah.
store, the
Yep.
American Girl store. And I mean, I auditioned for commercials. My mom would literally drive me in an hour into the city, an hour home for these 5-second auditions. She would circle the block or we would park, and the parking would cost like $45 for like a 2-second audition that I was never going to book. And so, I mean, I'm very thankful more than anything that my parents were as supportive as they were, because I feel like there's lots of talented kids, but if their parents don't sort
Yeah.
of drive them
Mhm.
and go with it and allow them to skip school every once in a while, they wouldn't have had these opportunities. And I'm not saying that's the right way or wrong way, but for me, I was very lucky that I was able to kind of take all these shots. And that's why I
Yeah.
got started so young, or I was able to.
Reading newspapers and doing all that yourself at 9 years old. Oh my gosh.
Yeah, I was obsessed. I was like, I'm fine to go to school. I enjoy it very much. I love learning, but I would love to start working as soon as possible. It's kind of like every reverse stage mom thing you hear about. I was telling my parents, if it's okay, I'm going to work very hard at it, but this is how it's going to go down. And if you wouldn't mind driving me, I promise I'll book something. And I would really like to do this as a career as soon as possible. And they were like, okay. So it's sort of how it happened. And yeah, I did a couple little commercials here and there. And I guess my first big thing was Broadway. And then that sort of kind of kickstarted the rest of my semi-consistent work. But I had to leave high school for that.
So, well, one question just to backtrack, because I didn't see this. Where in New Jersey are you from?
I'm from Bergen County. So
Okay.
I mean, we're like 25 minutes to the George Washington Bridge.
I was
Really
actually
close.
born in Washington Township.
Okay.
And
Oh,
I'm from
Jersey
Madison
girl,
right now.
amazing.
So not too
Nice.
far.
I love it. Beautiful.
So
I love New Jersey. I love New Jersey. I love New York. I mean, I grew up going into the city as young as 9 years old, and then I would
Yeah.
take the bus in once I was on Broadway, like by myself a lot when I was 15. So I got acquainted with Manhattan at a very early age, and yeah, it's my favorite place in the world.
Oh, that's amazing.
Yeah.
In terms of 13, what was that like? It's like you were 15 when you got that?
I was 15 on Broadway. I did the reading, I think, when I was 13 or 14. Then we did the regional run in Connecticut before that. It was really hard. I loved it. I don't know. And everybody there was the same. We were like a bunch of kids that were just dying to be challenged and wanted to just kind of live and eat, sleep, and breathe in this kind of world of just, and they treated us like adults. It was, I think we were the first all kids cast and band, or all teen, and there were no adults in the production, even in the band. And we worked so hard, and it was really special. I just felt like my dream was coming true, as corny as that sounds, because it's what I really, really wanted. When you grow up, in New Jersey, it's like Broadway's right there, but
Yeah.
it's so far away. It's such a big dream. And so for it to be happening, and for me at that age, it was pretty surreal. And it's like the coolest thing also, because everyone can come see it. When you're off filming in Los Angeles, no one really gets it where you're from. But the fact that all my parents' friends and all my friends could just drive an hour and come see me was very special. It's still everyone's favorite thing that I've done. I'm like, well,
Oh my
sorry, I'll try to beat it at some point. Like my family, I guess, because I was right there.
Right. Do you have a family of artists? Do you have other entertainers in your family, or was that something different that you wanted to do?
I do. I do have some in my family, but none really in my immediate family. My family's very musical on both my father's side
Mm.
and my mother's side. So, I mean, we have a piano in our home, and people were always playing and singing. My uncles play piano very, very well. My dad is a singer. My dad actually, he works at a right now he's like he works at a nursing home for life enrichment, so he will put on concerts for everybody. So he sings more than I do. He sings like every day for all these people, and he was always singing growing up, and he shared his love of music with me. And I think a lot of my favorite artists were his favorite artists, so I was around a lot of music and a lot of artistry. He's also a really talented visual artist. Like he sketches and he paints, and he's really talented. But no, as far as people in the industry, there are some in my family, but no, this was sort of a thing that I just sort of went really hard on early on, and I made everybody take the ride with me, and they did, luckily. But no, I
So
had no
what
connections, unfortunately, but that's okay.
so
I'm
what
good
was
with
that
that.
transition out of Broadway like?
Well, I went from Broadway to Nickelodeon, and the good thing about that was we were right down the street at the Jacobs Theater, and then
Yeah.
Viacom, who owns whatever,
Yeah.
all
That's
that.
like right
They
around
were
the
right,
corner.
yeah, they were right there. So they
Mhm.
heard about all these kids, and they were casting this Nickelodeon show, and they were just kind of picking all of us out on our day off to go up there and audition. And we were buzzing around, like when we were at work, we were like, "Oh, did you audition? Did you audition?" So I went and I auditioned, and then after our show closed, because we opened in the height of the recession, so everything closed very, very quickly. We only did 100 performances. I was lucky enough to book that show. But Nickelodeon it was a sitcom, and it's very heightened. So that transition was rather easy for me. It
Okay.
wasn't like I was going right to an indie where I had to
Yeah.
just be very quiet and not
Right.
kind of project. And we also sang on the show. So it was a good transition, actually. It was easier in a lot of ways, and it was much more challenging in other ways. And yeah, it felt like a natural progression.
Was
It
that
was
a
good.
move to Los Angeles?
It was a move to Los Angeles. My mom had to come with me. It was wild. I remember I got the screen test contract, and my whole family flew in. We'd never been to California before, and we were sitting in Santa Monica, and we had to sign this deal. And when you sign a deal, it's for 6 years or whatever. And it was like this really sad, weird moment where my brother, who was 3 years younger than me, so he must have been 12 at the time, and my dad were like, "Okay, so are you gonna like what's gonna happen? She can't go alone." So my mom would literally go back and forth. I mean, for 3 years, she lived with me, and she would go back and forth because we're a really tight knit family, and it was really crazy. It was like the things you read about where it's like the mom has to go with the kid. We were trying so hard not to be, that stereotype and what that looks like, but that's what it is. I can't live alone. I was 15 years old. I wasn't going
Right.
to get an
Yeah.
apartment, so she was out there with me, and I'm so thankful for her. And I think my closeness with my family has been my saving grace in this industry, because that matters more to me than anything else. And so it keeps me pretty grounded, and we made it work. It's a testament to my dad and my brother. They were like flexible with it, and they allowed it to happen. And yeah, I'm very grateful for that, but it was intense for sure.
Did you guys go back to New Jersey when you weren't filming, or were you
Yeah,
then auditioning for other things and really trying to do the
I
whole
tried, but they didn't let us do anything. I mean, when you're on Nickelodeon, it's like you're on Nickelodeon,
You're
you're
on
you're on
locked down.
lockdown.
Nickelodeon
You
forever?
can't do
Yeah.
Yeah.
it.
Lockdown
Yeah, I mean, I was
Nickelodeon.
just on CW. It was the same thing. They're like, you can audition, honey, but you're not going anywhere. So we went as often as we could. We would go home. We would actually have breaks with Nickelodeon, maybe 3 weeks on, 1 week off, things like that. So we'd go home as much as we could. So that
Okay.
was really all it
Yeah.
was. It was just a lot of
Yeah.
flying and a lot of working for 3-4 years. Yeah.
So that's obviously 15, 18, at that point, were you excited? Were you scared? Were you nervous? It's like those are some big leaps for, that's a lot to carry as at that age. Like what was that like almost emotionally for you? Like were you
I
insecure
think
about it or were you just barreling forward?
you mean insecure, meaning just being that age and
Yeah,
doing all that. Yeah, I mean, I was going through puberty pretty much like in real time
on
in
camera.
HD on camera. It's like a nightmare. That was the only kind of downside of the whole thing. I was like, oh God, I really wish I could kind of sort this out physically in private. It's kind of like everything you try. I took my eyebrows off. I dyed my hair black. I got really puffy out of nowhere because that's what happens sometimes. You're like a teenager and all of a sudden you look in the mirror one day and you're like, I look really weird and I don't feel like this is how I look, but I guess this is how I look. And then you're on TV to boot. So that was hard. But it's part of growing up. I don't know. I don't know what would have been harder, like going to high school every day and feeling people that way, or kind of just like the internet hadn't really kicked off at the level
Yeah,
it's at
yeah.
right now. And they gave us so much social media training. I mean, you probably think I sound like a robot right now. It's because of all the social media training from when I was 15 years old, but
Really?
it was okay. I mean, it was fine. I was really thankful to be on a set and to be working. It's what I wanted. So I sort of accepted the fact that these are the things that come with pursuing the thing you want and getting to the place you want to be. So I let it go and powered through and just allowed everything to keep changing and morphing until we reached a final stop, which I don't even know if it has.
As you guys were, that whole cast was becoming, household names and the
Hmm.
machine that was Nickelodeon. What was that social media training? Because you were just at the beginning and just at the,
Yeah.
Instagram 15 years ago was a little bit different.
yeah,
It was
and it
awesome.
was
I would
probably more
post a picture.
Facebook and
Oh, it was awesome. I would post a picture of like a leaf with 5 raindrops on it. And people would be like, oh, that's awesome, man. Like now, now everything's so calculated and so sterile and yeah, it's not my favorite. I actually love taking pictures. So in the beginning I was like, this is cool. Or I would take a picture and make a joke. And some people still do this, but now that people have been monetizing and making money off of it, they're like, all right, I'll clean up my act a little bit so that hopefully I can get some kind of endorsement or campaign and I could, you know, do XYZ. But they had us make social media accounts. Like I didn't have a Twitter. And I remember on 13, I think it came out around then. And they're like, you should really make a Twitter. It would help if you could tweet about the show. There's this thing, Twitter. And I was like, all right. So I reluctantly made one. And then I was late to Instagram too. I think I made one in 2012, which was a little bit late. And same deal. I didn't want to do it, but it was, it helps. And obviously now our whole lives are overtaken by it. So they were onto something for sure.
it's interesting that I feel like that social media training intense is so needed now, and it's not happening as much.
No.
And where you got, because it was just, at the beginning, it was, they took it more seriously, which sounds like the right way to go.
Well,
I think so. And it started with things like if you're out at the Cheesecake Factory, don't say, I'm at the Cheesecake Factory and post a picture of the Cheesecake Factory. You hold on to that picture and you post it when you get home or the next day. So it
yeah.
started as like a safety thing, which was
Uh-huh.
smart because this was like a new thing and everyone was trying to
Yeah.
navigate it. And you have a bunch of children,
Yeah.
it's not ideal. So
Yeah.
I think, while they were like, you should probably make one, they were like, here are some ways to, but then they also put you through training so that when you're interviewed, you can pivot, and it was helpful. I mean, I'm
Right.
thankful that they did that, because people will ask you anything, especially back then. They'd ask you absolutely anything, anytime. It was a different time, even, whatever, 12, 13 years ago it was.
You've obviously done a lot, and most recently we've seen, especially with you've kind of created an interesting partnership with Seth MacFarlane. That's one of the
Yeah.
things that we've seen, and I'd love to hear a little
Yeah.
bit more about that because it pops up in different interviews. But you
Yeah.
you two have really kind of come together on some really cool collaborations.
I think Seth and I were both born in the wrong time. And so when we met, we were sort of like, okay, you like this type of music. You understand this era, this moment in time. And yeah, I mean, I've been very lucky to be able to collaborate with him as much as I have. We're continuing to work on things. We're working on something right now. He's a good friend of mine, and our voices sound good together, I think. And we love a lot of that music, and we have a high respect for that sort of level of complexity. And he picks the most interesting and obscure songs, and it's been a real it's been a great lesson to me to get to learn all of that and to dive deeper into that world. And the musicians he plays with, I mean, the people I've met and I've gotten to work with, they're legends. It's just incredible. So I love it. I hope to keep doing it. It's fun. You don't see a ton of people singing this style of music anymore, and it's a style I've always loved. And I mean, he does it so well. And so yeah, it's a random pairing. Like when we'll be out sometimes, and people will be like, in the beginning, they'd be like, "Oh my God, it's Stewie and Jade from Victoria's." I don't get it, and I'm like, "No, we love jazz." And they're like, "Jazz?" So it doesn't really help. But yeah, it's been wonderful, and it's so much fun collaborating with him. We work similarly as well, so it's just great. Yeah,
That's
and I'm
awesome.
glad people enjoy it. My fans have gotten to like open their eyes to a new genre of music they might not have listened to as much. So
Yeah.
that's cool.
That's
Yeah.
awesome. And I think it's so cool that you're doing so many different projects, because I think, starting at such a young age at 15
Yeah.
and the projects that you've done, they've made such a mark, right? In terms of the types of how your fan base follows you,
Right.
and the places where you really want to expand and grow.
Yeah.
At this, you're working on Spread, and that's with Harvey
Hmm.
Keitel, which I'd love to hear a little bit more about what it's like
Yeah,
to
no,
work with
that's
him and
fine.
what that experience has been like, but also just when you're looking at your projects moving forward, what are the genres or where are the areas that you really want to kind of spread your wings and experiment with?
From doing two shows, although Nickelodeon was probably only 3 years and then Dynasty was 5. So these longer form shows, you do feel, as thankful as you are, you get to feel a bit stagnant or a bit stuck after a while.
Yeah,
You're playing the same character, the
understandable.
episodes are rolling and rolling, and you're like, okay. So even when I was on Nickelodeon, I would make a point to go into editing, I would pitch scripts. I actually pitched an idea for a script once on Nickelodeon that ended up being our April Fool's episode. And I was able to go write with all the writers. It was like a room full of, 40-year-old dudes. And I was there, like in there
That's
pitching at like
awesome.
16 years old.
Oh
And I
my
got
god,
to
that's
write with
amazing.
them. And yeah, it was very
Yeah.
cool. And I'd sit in the editing bit. I would do whatever I could. I would watch the director because I figured while I'm here and I can't leave. And also I'm happy to be working. I'm not complaining, but since I can't do anything else, why don't you sort of explore every angle you possibly can so that you can take this knowledge, this sort of inside knowledge that other people can't learn in school or other places, because I'm here, like, learning all of it right in front of me, and then take this knowledge and maybe I could go do something with it later in life. And Dynasty was the same. And I was lucky enough to direct twice on Dynasty. And that's when I sort of realized, okay, this is really sort of this is a major interest of mine. I love directing.
Oh, wow.
And, I don't think it's for everybody, but it's definitely for me. I do think I have more of a director brain than an actor brain. I'm always looking at the full, like the big picture, much less than I'm looking at my own private character. And I had the best time directing and I just loved it. And I was probably the happiest doing that. And so I'm a producer on Spread, this movie that we just did, and producing is another thing that I just absolutely love. I love being involved in editing, in casting, in everything. It was so cool to see everything from the other side after being, on the opposite side and only seeing one side for, so much of my career, especially the audition process. It was fascinating. So more of that. I want to keep producing and keep directing and sort of have my hands in everything. That's my goal going forward. I'm not comfortable just acting for the rest of my career. That I don't have as much of an
That's
interest
a great
in. I want to do
aspiration.
everything. Yeah.
Would you think about writing as well in
Yeah.
terms of bringing like one of your own projects to screen?
My problem with writing is I'm a little scatterbrained. So I usually will have somebody and then I'll spit like 50 ideas out and I'll be like, you don't have to give me any credit. Just make all of it make sense. And then we'll do an episode or something like that. That I just said to my mom though yesterday, I said, I'm going to try to write this year. I'm going to try to sit down and sort of hopefully find a writing partner who can sort of pare down, because I talk fast and a lot, which you're learning now. And that's how I write. And so it's good and it's bad. So if I could sort of narrow it down and keep it concise, I would love, love, love to create something entirely on my own and then direct it. It'd be great. Yeah.
In terms of Spread, obviously you've taken on a couple different roles on that.
Yeah.
What's been the most challenging of all of them in terms of, just because you've obviously been in the business for a long time, you've seen a lot,
Yeah.
what challenges you? Like what was scary for you?
With Spread, I went right into it after Dynasty. I was scared that if I waited, I'd be like, I'm not. I needed such a break after Dynasty mentally. I went
Yeah.
to the beach. I went to Long Island with my family for a week and a half, and then I went right to Canada and I did Spread for 3 weeks. And At first I was like, this was a mistake. I should have taken more time. I'm not ready to be grinding this out. Like, as I think I was in every scene but two.
Mm.
So there was no break and no stopping.
Yeah.
And when you're doing an indie, it's like you got to get it done. There's no excuses. You just got to push
Push
forward.
through.
Mhm.
But I think the endurance Dynasty gave me, it was actually smart because it felt like nothing I was like, this is just a normal day at work. I had my work mindset on we shot minimum, I shot minimum 10 to probably 15 hours a day, 10 months out of the year, 5 days a week. So
Wow.
I didn't know anything but being at work.
Jeez.
I truly at that point, I didn't even know who I was anymore. I was just going there, and I had my head like this. So it was good. I mean, the challenging part of Spread, I'm fine. Like, as a producer, it's like an indie, so you have
Yeah.
all these big things you want to do. And like right now, for example, I believe we just locked our final cut, and we had all these songs we wanted, something as small as that. But it's like, the reality of being a producer and being on that side, they say, like, learn to kill your babies. And it's the truth, because it's like, you have to be realistic, you have to be practical. And I can't put $100,000 worth of music into this independent film. And these are things that I learned when I directed on Dynasty. And I was trying to put, like, huge songs in the show. And they're like, Liz, you're out of your mind. I don't know what you think this is. This isn't a Scorsese movie. It's not a David O. Russell movie. Like, we're going to probably not put this song in. And I was like, all right, well, I had to try. So it's just sort of learning to let go of the things that aren't as important that you might have wanted, and keep and hold on and work harder for the things that are. And so that's sort of what I've taken away from both directing and producing on Spread, on this last movie. But it's a really fun movie, and very, very different from Dynasty. Couldn't really be more different. So that's good. Yeah, it's great.
It sounds like it's going to be cool.
Yeah.
And Harvey Keitel, very, very cool guy. And I'm really glad that I know him now and that I got to work with him. He was awesome.
Well, the Spread is based on Buffy Charlotte Hustler, right?
Yeah.
So-
Our writer worked at Hustler, and she actually, she just relayed her experiences and wrote this script, this very funny, smart script based on her time there and the things she saw and how she was treated as basically like the only woman working at Hustler at the time. And it was just, I was picking her brain about it a couple weeks ago when I saw her in LA, or about a month ago, and it was just insane. And it was obviously a very different time when she was working there. It was a long, long time ago. And yeah, I mean, I'm happy to say that we had like a female director, we had a female writer, female lead. It's a really cool movie. It's very special. It feels like a dude movie, but it's not. It's from the
Yeah.
lens of a woman.
Yeah.
And it's written by women and directed by women, and it's very cool. Yeah.
That's awesome. We're excited for
Yeah.
it.
Is there a different sense of responsibility when it's someone's true story?
Yeah. I mean, it was loosely based, but I mean, I know how much this meant to her. And this story is like you said, it's her true story. It's her baby. It's her thing. So we wanted to protect it. And I think we did. And she's really happy with it. But every time she'd be on set, I'd be like, am I screwing this up? Are you mad at me right now? Or is this okay? Is this how it went down for you? Is this good? And she's like, no, it's good. It's good. And she was very happy. And it was just great. It felt very nice to go. You never know. You do something for so long. You jump right onto another thing with different people, different story, different tone. And you're like, God, I hope, can I do this? Can I jump into a new, and it's like, you can, and you make new friends and you have new experiences and journeys. And it was great. I'm very happy I did it. And I'm happy I did it when I did it. My fans think it's not real, but it is real. Movies just take time. I want to clear that up for everyone who's going to comment that.
How did you come to the project? It's like going from Dynasty. It's like that's a leap, in terms of what attracted you to the project. And was it something, obviously, Dynasty coming to an end and being in that kind of zone to going to this project? It's like that's kind of also has to be refreshing for you.
I told my team, I said, I'd just only send me things that are the polar opposite of Dynasty, just for a little bit, because also I don't know what it would help for me to go, like, why would I go play like another, rich, snarky, I'm not cursing because I saw that in the email, so I took it to find a word.
Feel free.
No,
it's
okay.
fine.
It would make no sense to play the same role in any format. So this was just, I mean, for lack of a better word, it's very smart and it's very clever and it's very sweet and very heartfelt. but it's like a workplace sex comedy. It's like the opposite of what anyone would expect me to go do after Dynasty. So I was
Mhm.
like, let's do it. This is perfect. And it has such a sweetness. That's really what drew me to it. It's a very, very sweet, sweet movie. And it makes you smile. And side note, I just started and binged Ted Lasso, and what a sweet show. I'm so late to the game, but it's a delight.
Yeah, that
Unrelated to anything we're talking
that
about.
niceness, it's refreshing, that niceness that comes out.
You
I
know,
know it is. I feel like nothing's really nice anymore,
Yeah.
but
yeah.
Ted Lasso is.
You know, starting on at 13 and going from Broadway, you hear a lot about, being on stage and what that's like from live performance to being on camera.
Yeah.
What was that transition, when you look back, do you want to go back to Broadway? Do you want to go back to
Yeah.
live performances like that? Is that something you crave and love because you grew up on it?
I love it. I just recently I agreed to do this sort of concert thing because I just don't sing live enough anymore. And it is one of those things where it is and it's not, like riding a bicycle, because you can lose your sea legs. And for
Yeah.
me, my nerves will take away lyrics. That's my thing. I can sing anywhere if there's a teleprompter, but my thing that will happen is if I get nervous, which is rare, I typically don't, I won't know the words. And that's like my little fear. But the more you don't address it, it gets bigger and bigger. And then you start
Yeah.
saying no to the opportunities. And it's stupid because I come from theater and luckily when I was on Dynasty, I sort of have a photographic memory. So I would look at the lines pretty much at rehearsal and then I would do the scene, which is, I don't recommend this. This is not like a thing I recommend for people. But after 5 years, I was like, I think let's see how it goes. And it usually worked out okay. But I'm dying to go back to live theater. And the funniest thing was I booked the job, Victorious with Ariana, who was my dressing roommate, Ariana Grande on 13. And when we
Yeah.
got there, we had a song to sing and we like totally didn't get that we'd be lip syncing. We really didn't get it. So we came through and started like scream belting and like full out performing it at like Broadway style. And they're like, that's fun. We're probably not going to use that. We don't do that here. So please put these little earwigs in and lip sync. And we were like, I don't know. Or no, we had them bring in the earwigs so we can sing live. And they sort of, they appeased us for 1 or 2 takes. They allowed us to do it. And they're like, now you got to lip sync because this is how it works over on TV. And we're like, okay, all right. Well, now we know. We learned. Now we get it. So lip syncing, I had to learn how to lip sync. And now I love it. So
There you go.
just for fun, like
Yeah.
RuPaul's Drag Race style, not for my career. I don't lip sync, but it's a good party trick. It
Yeah.
can come in handy.
Absolutely. Even going back to 13, when you moved to LA, you were 15, like, did
Mhm.
you feel because of, having the success of Victorious and then, Dynasty and so forth, do you feel like you had to grow up faster? It's like you must have been exposed to so much and like your family obviously grounded you in so many ways. It's like that's a lot of exposure. Did you feel like
Yeah.
you had to grow up and mature in a certain way and over
Yeah.
those
I
years?
mean,
Like what was that
the
like?
Yeah, no, I definitely did. I mean, having a job that's that high demand, you need to grow up or else it's not going to last and the job's
Yeah.
going to go away and you're going to go back to not being in the industry and you're going to go back to high school. So I was like, I'm going to work hard and I like high
Yeah.
school, but I'd much rather be doing this. I did have to grow up. I mean, the thing I missed, which I always joke, maybe I'll have a wild time in my 40s. This is not my 30s because I'm going to keep working now. But I mean, I didn't go out. I don't think I had a drink till I was 21 at a restaurant. I mean, really, I had my head down and I
Yeah.
was just working by my own choice to the point where my family was almost like, do you want to maybe like go out and make a mistake? And I was like, no, I'm just gonna go to bed and go to work. So that's also not something I totally recommend. I feel like a life work balance is really important. But again, when the stakes are so high and you're
Yeah.
so young and it's the thing you want and you weren't forced into it, like I willingly chose this and forced my whole family to let me do this.
You didn't take advantage of it
You don't take advantage
Yeah,
of it.
but that's
And
a very mature mindset
gonna
to
say.
be able to look at that whole picture at that age.
probably not healthy, but we can unpack that on another episode.
Did
No, but I mean, it's
with Victorious and that whole project, were all of the appearances and the cast being together and on red
Yeah.
carpets, was that all part of was that part of the job that you were ready
Yeah.
for?
The only thing none of us were ready for, I think, was like the our show hit, like I said, at the time when social media was taking off. So
Right, right.
that, like iCarly, I think iCarly was bigger than our show, but it was all around the same time, and
Mhm.
it just blew up because this was a new thing, social media, where things could, little jokes, little pictures, screen grabs, gifs, or whatever they were at the time. It's like this was a whole new thing. And for me, the only thing I wasn't ready for that I got ready for quickly was just the getting your pictures, moment that you are on camera, every screen grab sent back to you, to like, for you to look at. That's what's really strange. That was crazy. But now it's such a normal part of our lives. So
Yeah.
again, I feel like I got a head start, and I'm thankful, since it was inevitable, that I got to learn about it early on. Maybe if I had a daughter and she was sort of kind of like deciding whether or not she should go try to do this, like in her formative years, when she was going to be, I didn't give my parents a choice, but I'm like strict. So if my daughter was like, "Oh my god, I think it'll be fun to go through puberty on TV," I'll be like, "Well, it's not. I've done it, but I'll let you do it if you want, but I'm going to tell you it's not the best thing in the whole world."
Have you been surprised or pleased at how I mean, the show, people, it holds up. People still,
I know.
they watch it and they love it, and do they still think that you guys are 17 and
They
that age? I mean,
do.
I had my sons. All, I mean, the Victoria. Are you kidding me? Victorious was the show my boys
How
watched.
old are they
When I told
now?
them I was talking to you today, they're like, "No way!"
Oh,
But they would still, like, on a Saturday afternoon, rainy Saturday, thumbing through Nickelodeon. If Victorious is on, they'll lay there and watch it.
They're in
so
their 20s, by the
They're in
way.
their 20s.
no, but I'll watch SpongeBob if it's on. I swear, if
Yeah,
I'm
yeah.
laying, I'll watch anything from my childhood if it's on. I'm so happy it's transcended. It's nothing but a good thing. It makes me
Yeah.
happy, and it's so strange. I do feel bad when I have to make videos for friends or something. They'll be like, "Oh, my daughter just discovered the show. She's 6," and I'm like, "That's crazy." And
Uh-huh.
she's like, could you make a video?" And then I make a video, and like, I might as well be 60 to her at this point. Like I said, I'm definitely not 17, and but more than anything, they're upset when I'm not mean to them, or that I don't have black
Right.
hair. That's really all they care about.
It's
My
like, you
age,
still
my age doesn't matter. If I'm
like,
not verbally berating them, they're like very turned off.
yes, you have
So
to be Jade.
yeah, I have to be Jade. I have to be mean and dark. But yeah, yeah, yeah.
When you're looking at, the projects moving forward, are there things that are coming your way that are really piquing your interest after Spread? And
Yeah. Developing has been piquing my interest. That's what I've been working on a couple projects that I've been putting together from the ground up, finding writers and working with the writers, and that's really fun, and pitching around. I don't know if it will happen right away, but my interest at this juncture is to have, especially coming off of such a um not constricting, but yeah, an intense nonstop show for that long. I want to have as much control as I can. And I
Mm.
think that the more control I have, the closer I'll feel to kind of being exactly where I want to be. And I know a lot of people want this, but like I said, I'm for a movie, or for, maybe a couple episodes of something, I have no problem just showing up. But for, if I'm going to lock myself into something like I was just in, I want to be able to speak up for myself and have as much power and say as I possibly can. And I'll never abuse it, but I'm interested in being in something from the beginning in the creative process. And so developing has been fun for me right now. And there are a couple projects that are piquing my interest, but I'm being very selective, because one
it's
simple,
fair.
"Okay, yeah, sure," could turn into
Yeah.
6 years.
6 years or
So,
something.
no regrets, but it's a lot. It's a lot of your time. It's
Yeah.
a lot of your
Yeah.
time.
It's a lot of your
Yeah.
life.
Yeah.
Yeah. And you're not you for any of that time either. You're
Yeah.
like acting like some other person. So if you think about it that way, it's very weird.
It's interesting because we were talking last night on our way to dinner, and we were talking about the long shoots, and to hear that you for, 10 months of the year
Mhm.
would work that many hours. It's like at
Yeah.
some point it's like, what's that balance? Like how do you
There's no balance.
it's
There's
crazy.
no balance.
It's like I can't even
Yeah.
fathom the fog that you feel that you're in.
It was crazy. It got really gnarly towards the end there, but then you also sound like a brat if you ever complain about it, because it's the dream. Consistent work for an actor is the
Yeah.
dream. And so it's
Mhm.
like a really small, weird group you can complain to if you'd ever dare about a situation like that. And
Yeah.
I'm not complaining, but it was, I mean, you I mean, that's 10 years of asking if you can, run off to go to the bathroom really quick. You know what I mean? It's like,
Yeah.
you're not controlling any part of your life. You are working. It was really hardcore, but, I don't know where I could have or would have gotten the work experience that I got there. I mean,
Yeah.
I'm certainly not nervous on a set. I mean, that was just, it was nonstop experience. So I'm really
Yeah.
thankful. And
Yeah.
and where else would I have gotten to direct? It's not that easy to get opportunities to direct, especially I think I directed first when I was maybe 25 or 6. No, I'm older than that. I don't even know how old I am. I think I'm 29. I think I'm 20. I'm pretty sure I'm 29. But so that was all very
Yeah.
cool. And they didn't really cut me any breaks either. When I was happy about it. It was hard. And I do think it was harder being a woman. It definitely was harder being a woman. I saw it firsthand and I was like, okay, I suspected, but that's good to know. And I'm glad I got to do it there. I am.
From that experience, as you're looking at these projects you wanna develop from the ground up, are you very, conscious of what your team's gonna look like and
Yeah.
who the people are and what kinds of people you want around you in those processes?
Definitely. I think another thing you learn other than just work experience is you learn to read people and learn what kinds of people and what kinds of personality traits work well, creatively and on a set and in a scene and directing. And so I've been really lucky to make a lot of great relationships in the last 5, 10 years. And I don't forget anybody that I love to work with and I want to keep working with them. And everybody I'm developing with now, not because I sought it out this way, but happens to be a woman, which I think is cool because
Mhm.
I think that's always a really great thing. And it's a very cool, special thing. And I hope I get the gratification of having the feeling of selling something that I built from the ground up soon because I'm sure it's very cool. I'm sure it's a really great thing. I mean, Spread, I wasn't there from the ground up, but getting to be as involved as I've been and I've seen, I don't know, I've probably watched this movie like 40, 50 times, and I've seen probably 30 cuts of this movie and sat in editing for countless hours with our brilliant director who's allowed me to do so and really kind of let me, do all the producer stuff because it's easy when you have this, when the star of the movies, like I'm also a producer. It's like, oh God, I roll. What a nightmare. So I was careful not to, I watched the movie. That's the weird thing. I watched the movie and I'm not looking at me. I don't think of it as me saying the lines. I literally am like the actress playing Ruby. I'm like, okay, well, Ruby needs to go here. Cut that line. That's not good. Like I really have a way of separating myself out of it, which
That's an amazing
is
ability.
good
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
it'd be a nightmare otherwise. That would be that's how that could go very wrong, I think. But it's been good so far. I'm proud of the movie and I hope to do more of that, be behind the scenes much more.
The things that, what are the things that you're watching in your, now that you're out of a little bit have a
Yeah.
little bit of a break, what do you
Yeah.
like to watch? What do you like besides Ted Lasso? We know you're now binging that, but what are you
I'm so
watching?
late.
What's
Everyone's gonna be like, Ted Lasso. Yeah, that's old news. What am I watching?
or
I watch the
reading
things that
or enjoying?
okay, well, this is honestly towards the end of Dynasty and then after Dynasty, I had to detox so much from that experience and from sort of intense scripted television that the thing that I really enjoyed watching, I would come home and I watch everything on Discovery Plus. Do either of you have it on like Magnolia Network, which is Chip and Joanna Gaines's
Yeah.
network?
Yeah.
Okay, so it's like some of them are 9-minute episodes called Beach Cabin Chronicles, and it's just somebody talking about like the floor they chose for their beach house, and then it's over. And that is really my favorite thing to
That's
watch.
amazing.
I love it.
That's
Oh
amazing.
yeah, it's like that's exactly as much as I can take at the end of the day typically. I also, I mean, I don't know, I love Success. Okay, other end of the spectrum because it's like high-end Dynasty. I love Succession. It's
Oh,
back
yeah.
and it's fantastic. I mean, it's just so good. Anything that's just really good, I am watching. I watch White Lotus, of course.
Yeah.
I'm obsessed with all of that. And I watch the Food Network.
I love the Food Network.
That's where I'm at.
There's this young woman in the Food Network, and I have to think of Girl Meets Farm, I think is what it is.
Girl Meets Farm is cute.
Oh,
Really
she
cute.
is so cute. And
Yeah.
the things that she cooks, and she's in like
Yeah.
North Dakota or
Oh yeah.
someplace
It's
literally
heaven.
on a farm. She's
Well,
adorable.
one of my dreams is to get Ina Gardner
Yeah.
on this.
Okay, so you have to get Ina because how great is her show where she's interviewing everybody, by the way.
Oh,
Have you seen it?
She's
She's
amazing.
Be My Guest or My Next Guest. I forgot what it's called. It's such a great show.
Yeah.
I have every one of her cookbooks. I can just watch
Ugh.
her, like, I don't know whether it's how she uses her hands or how she positions stuff. It's like mesmerizing to me
She has
always.
my dream life. She
She
really
does.
does have my dream
That
life.
house in the Hamptons, I'm like,
Oh my
I
God.
just,
Oh my
Well,
God.
and she
she's
has a fascinating background. It's like she was in
Yes.
government
Yes.
I
and
know.
Yes.
I just learned that recently. I couldn't
Yeah.
believe it. Oh, and Nancy Meyers movies. I'm telling you, like I really, if I'm
Right.
doing something for pleasure, I'm really keeping it. Like I'm watching It's Complicated, or I'm watching, like watching people restore old motels on Discovery Plus. Like
Yeah.
beyond
Right,
that, I really
right.
can't
It's like
tolerate much more.
an idyllic Nancy Meyers movie. There's nothing better than that in the world to me. Like whether it's The Holiday
Nothing.
to like Something's Got to Give. It's
Just
like I want to grow
escape.
up and be Diane Keaton and be a
Right.
playwright.
Just-
Like
I would be a teapot in one of the kitchens. I would be
Yeah.
any of
Yeah.
this. I'm like, let me.
I
I'd
just
be a
want my
cashier in one of
wardrobe
those
to be
movies.
that simple.
I want my
and,
house to
yeah,
be
just
that
like
nice.
everything to be so put together. So
Oh, Liz, it's been such a pleasure talking to you
It's
today.
so
We
nice
really
to meet
appreciate
you.
This was
it.
fun. Thank you. It was really fun.
all right, thank you, Liz.
Fantastic.
Have
Have
a good day.
Thanks so much, guys. Have a great day.
Okay, bye-bye.
Bye. If you enjoyed this episode, subscribe and leave a review on Spotify and Apple Podcasts. To stay up to date with In Her Words, join the conversation by following Women in Entertainment on our social channels and subscribe to our weekly newsletter at womeninentertainment.com.